Hi, my name is Grady and I'm a solar consultant here at Solar YYC, and today I'm going to go over how to look at your electricity bill both pre and post solar and calculate out a rough estimate of what your return over time will be. When you look at an electricity bill, and this is my own electricity bill here that I'm providing as an example, sometimes we don't look maybe too closely at these bills, but understanding how we're billed is important, and understanding, how it affects you after solar as well as before. When you look at the bill here, you see that there's the line item here of energy charge, where I'm on a 10.49 cent per kilowatt hour fixed rate over 5 years. I used 759 kilowatt hours at my home over the most recent month, and this resulted in an energy charge of just under $80 over the course of the month. Now, when we look at the full bill cost down here, you can see, we're upwards of over $182. Most of our bills, in most cases of the clients we see, the delivery charges and the administration costs are actually more of a part of that overall cost than even what you're just paying on that fixed rate. You can see here when we look at my distribution charge and my transmission charge, these two numbers on their own are more than my actual billed amount for the energy I've used. So understanding that these pieces and the variable components of them will be reduced over time with solar is important in understanding how we calculate what your bill would be after solar, because you will still have an electricity bill even with a solar investment. To explain that further, I'll show you a part of our proposal document that we provide when asked for a complimentary quote from Solar YYC. You would receive a document that has this information in it, and on this left-hand side you can see we're really showing you your status quo, where you're at currently paying off of the electricity grid with your utility retailer. My bill over the last 12 months, based off of something that you would provide us when we provide you a quote, would have been $211.65 as my average electricity bill over the last 12 months. Now, this number is, of course, including those delivery costs and those administration fees. And that's why when you look at this number here, you can see that I'm showing a 24-cent cost per kilowatt hour. So even though we saw my fixed rate is only 10.49 cents, when you do factor in everything, including all those extra costs, this is truly what I'm paying for electricity, and this is what we want to look at. We want to look at the full cost of electricity that we're paying when we calculate out a return for you over time. Now, when we come over to the investing in solar side, you can see that we've calculated a future bill after solar for me at $59.37 on average. But it's important to understand how solar works in terms of how we calculate this potential future bill number for you. When you have solar on your roof, during the daylight hours, when you're producing electricity, your home is going to get the first use of that. Anything that's not used is going to be sold back to the grid, and you'll have a credit on your bill. However, when you sell back, you are only selling back at the fixed rate. You unfortunately don't get to charge back those delivery, transmission, distribution charges that the utility charges you. In the evening hours when those panels are no longer in the sun, any of the power use in the home is going to be pulled off the grid, because these are grid-tied systems without battery storage. During those hours, the electricity use that you pull will be subject to those extra delivery costs. When we calculate out this number, we have to make some assumptions, because we know how much electricity you're using, but we don't know necessarily when you are using the electricity over the course of a day. So the assumption we use is a 50-50 split, 50% of the house's electricity use happening during daylight hours when you're using your own electricity or selling excess back to the grid for a credit, versus 50% of the home's energy use happening during evening hours when you are going to be subject to those extra fees that we were speaking on. Now, even selling back for a credit, that is great, but the most economic use of solar is to actually try and utilize the electricity use that you are producing even before selling it back for a credit, since that credit will only offset the fixed part of what you pull off the grid in the evening time. So habit changes can be impactful with solar. If you're able to, maybe run dishwashers or washer and dryers or high volume electrical appliances during the daylight hours, Maybe you can make it look more like a 60% daylight hour use of the home energy versus 40% evening hour use. This would actually make this number go down for you due to avoiding more of those fees. Now, the other thing, when you look in our proposal documents, these numbers are all based off the bare bones capabilities of the system. Now, in reality, there are some additional value adds that will bring this number down for you further. One is called Solar Club, and the other is called carbon credit sales. Now, we like to show those pieces separately so you can see how they all tie together. So again, this $59 bill amount is based off strictly the cost of if I installed solar and did nothing else, when in reality, we would take advantage of those Solar Club and carbon credit pieces. Now, if I scroll down further in the document that we provide you when you get a quote, you'll see that we have my overall project cost at about $26,500. This is before GST. But this item over here is really great in terms of explaining how Solar Club works. Solar Club allows you to sell excess electricity at different points of the year at a higher rate. So you can see that the red bars here are the consumption from my home versus the yellow bars being the production that's going to be produced by the panels during the different months of the year. Now you can see that starting in April, I actually become a net producer. I'm producing more electricity than I'm using in the home. And what Solar Club allows you to do, and many retailers offer this throughout the province, including NMAX as just one example, you have the ability to actually go up to a higher electricity rate of 30 cents during the months that you're producing more than you're using. So over the course of April all the way to September, I would set up my electricity rate to jump to 30 cents, and I'd be able to sell all of this excess above the red back at that higher rate. And this will build up a big bill credit for me over the summer. That based off of that same graph, I am putting in the average monthly consumption numbers from my home as well as the estimated production numbers over the course of different months. In those months where I'm on that Solar Club rate and I'm producing more than my home is using, you can see that I have these yellow areas here showing just how much above the consumption I'm actually producing in a per kilowatt hour basis. So over the course of a year, I'm showing about 3,308 kilowatt hours that I'm actually able to sell back at this 30-cent rate, which is showing me a bill credit of about $992.40 as an additional value coming off of the Solar Club program. Now, the other program that comes into play with solar is carbon credits. Carbon credits, when you are producing renewable electricity and bypassing how much you are pulling off of Alberta's predominantly natural gas-fired grid, you are gaining carbon credits that you own and have value. And using solar offset, one of the examples that we use as a potential company that can broker your carbon credits for you, if I put in the system size that I am quoting for my project here, you can see that I get this range here of about $3,416 to $4,392. This is how much they are estimating the range to be of what I'll receive for my carbon credits over a 10-year term. Now, if we come back here, you can see that I've put together this little graphic here showing kind of different bill numbers and showing you kind of how your savings are calculated over time. Now, this here is the pre-solar electricity bill, my average that we looked at over the last 12 months of what I've been paying on my electricity bill. Now, if we look at that over a 25-year term, this $63,000 number is really just this multiplied by the months over a 25-year period to show if I don't change anything, this is what I'm going to be paying for my electricity. Now, when we look at with solar, we can see that, based off that cost that we looked at, if I add the GST, my monthly loan payment with the interest-free loan is going to be about $232.61. Now, we looked at what my average bill would be after solar of about $59.37. But again, that didn't factor in the Solar Club credits and the carbon credits that I can take advantage of. So when I take this $992.40 that I was showing as my estimated Solar Club savings annually, If I divide that over 12 months, we're seeing a monthly credit of about $62.70 back to me. Now, the carbon credit piece that we just looked at, using that calculator, we had that range. If I take the midpoint and then calculate that down to a monthly basis, I'm showing a monthly credit of about $32.53 from my carbon credit sales. And so for the first 10 years of a solar project, when you're using the interest-free loan, I'm going to be dealing with a monthly loan payment. I'm going to be dealing with my post-solar energy bill, and then I'm going to have these solar club credits and carbon credits that are going to help offset these costs. This solar monthly payment for years 1 to 10 is really just adding up all 4 of these numbers. And you can see that in my situation, with all of these pieces together, I'm going to be paying about $196.75 on a monthly basis while I'm paying back towards the interest-free loan. So right off the get-go, I'm already paying less on a monthly basis than what I paid on an average electricity bill last year, except for that money is now going into the equity of an appliance upgrade of my home. Now, when things really get valuable in terms of return is when this monthly loan payment falls off after I've paid it back in year 10. And so you could see that I'm showing a solar monthly payment years 11 to 25, actually in a credit position where I'm actually making about $35 per month instead of paying. Now, this number is calculated by the monthly post-solar bill with the carbon credits and the solar club added in, which is what makes up this number here. Now, when I add the 10 years of this number with the loan payment and then the remaining 15 years of this credit position, my 25-year electricity cost is actually about $17,000. So over the course of 25 years, the difference between these two numbers is about $46,000 and change in terms of my savings or my avoided cost of electricity over that period. Now, one thing to mention is that we're not building in any electricity price inflation into these calculations. So this is a really conservative approach, showing that there is a savings even if electricity prices remained the exact same as what I'm currently on. In reality, we know that's not going to happen. Electricity prices are going to inflate. This number is going to jump up over time. This number will as well, but at a much smaller ratio of increase compared to this, since we're not pulling as much off the grid and we are purchasing or using electricity that we own now off of our solar system. As electricity prices rise in reality, this savings number is actually going to increase based on how much electricity prices go up. Thanks so much for your time and hope this was helpful.